What's going on, Guardians, and welcome back. Today, we're diving into what can be one of the most powerful melee Warlock builds coming with the changes in the Edge of Fate expansion. We're talking about new artifact mods in the Synergy, some glaive and melee reworks, and best of all, there is no exotic class item required for this build. Let's break down this build and how it's going to work in the new sandbox. Now, if you caught our last video, we covered the incoming melee and glaive changes, but let me give you a short breakdown. Glaive melee is now going to be treated as uncharged melee damage, meaning it's going to proc on perks, exotics, traits that were previously ignored. Now, weapon radiant damage is no longer going to affect glaive melee, but that's okay because we have synergies elsewhere. Now, melee damage is going to be additive, so 2 melee buffs is going to be a flat 100% rather than the multiplicative that it was before. And if you spec into 200 melee stat, it's going to give you an additional 30% damage. In short, glaives are going to be meta for melee builds. And with all this unchanged melee effects now affecting everything like knockout, offensive bulwark, spark of feedback, you name it, it is going to synergize beautifully. And that's why I wanted to theory craft a melee Warlock build that anybody can use without needing an exotic class item. Now, if you have one, Spirit of Syntheseps is going to be fantastic. Absolutely toss it on. It's going to elevate this build to its highest potential. But the core of this build is fully viable for high-end content like Grandmasters. So let's go through the subclass, exotic armor, weapon choices, artifact synergy, and why it all works together. Breaking down the subclass, we are running Prismatic subclass. It's fun, it's effective, it is going to be the best choice here. And with the new artifact mods across Strand, Stasis, Solar, Void, Prismatic is the perfect foundation for this. So here's the core setup. Your super Nova Bomb, it has a solid DPS, synergizes with Facet of Purpose to grant you that overshield when picking up an Orb of Power. Melee is going to be obviously Arcane Needle, unraveling targets, creating tangles, plus it's just fun to use. Grenade, Cold Snap, helps with Darkness Transcendence. It's great for crowd control to freeze and slow everything. And toss on Bleak Watcher to synergize it even more to be able to slow and freeze nearby targets at ease. Now, you can swap Bleak Watcher on for Feed the Void if you want Devour, but remember, fragments are getting nerfed, so choices may matter more now than they ever have before. We're gonna have to wait and see how that fully plays out. But we don't need Devour for this build because it is gonna be a great survivability build even without it. Now, Lightning Surge is going to be our next aspect. So your powered melee turns into that slide melee, jolts targets, can stun overloads, plus it gives you amplified for 15% damage resistance. Now, the key fragments that we're going, we know with the changes to the fragment slots with your artifacts, we're just going to go over 4 key fragments that I'm considering using for this build. First up, you've got Facet of Courage, and it is getting buffed from that 10% to 50%. So basically, your light abilities will do more damage to darkness debuff targets. Then there's Facet of Protection for 15% damage resistance, or that 32% when you're in your Transcendence. Next is Facet of Purpose to get that Void Overshield from Orbs of Power. And lastly, there is Facet of Dawn, so your powered melee hits will grant you Radiant, giving you that 20% increase to damage, as well as having Radiant allows you to stun barrier champions. Though, to me, Facet of Dawn is interchangeable solely because of some stuff that we're going to talk about with the artifact mods, but we're really going to have to wait and see how it plays out. So this one right now is kind of a toss in the air for me. Now, for the exotic, we're going with an original Season 1 Warlock exotic armor piece, the Karnstein Armlets. This is going to give you Cure ×3 for a short second and Restoration for 8 seconds on a melee or a finisher final blow. And remember, glaive melees now will proc that. So whether you're using Arcane Needle, Lightning Surge, or glaive melee just smacking things, you're healing constantly, which means we don't need Devour. Weapon-wise, our primary glaive is going to be the Rake Angle. This specific role does have Chill Clip to freeze enemies, and it still will freeze and stun Unstoppables and Overloads. And then we're tossing on Pugilist, so it builds melee energy and boosts handling after those melee defeats. You want a Strand Glaive? The episode of Heresy's Glaive is perfect for that. And remember, Close to Melee did get a buff, so it's going to be a 30 or 60% increase instead of that 30% increase to damage. And next up for the secondary, you want to be going with a solar weapon because of the artifact perk, Flame, Fiber, Freeze. It's going to stack the benefits of Solar, Strand, and Stasis mods. My pick for this is going to be Polaris Lance. You have anti-barrier from the artifact mod. 4 precision hits will delay that Scorch explosion, which can trigger ignition, stunning unstoppable champions. So not only is your glaive going to stun unstoppables and overloads, Polaris Lance can stun unstoppables and barriers. It's going to be my go-to for Grandmasters, I believe, especially the long-range open areas. It's reliable, it's safe, and it just is fun to use. Plus, this was the original exotic that I used in Grandmasters when I first got into in-game content. Not to mention, exotic primaries do create heavy ammo more often than anything else. Now, for heavy, anything really goes here, but I'm going to recommend a stasis machine gun specifically for artifact synergy. You've got Quilm's Terminus from King's Fall, Archon's Thunder from Iron Banner, or if you don't want to run any of those or it's not available, you can just grab Chain of Command from Collections. It doesn't have random rolls, so you can just pick it up. It's got solid perks like Adrenaline Junkie and Demolitionist that synergize really well together. We've talked a little bit about the artifacts and how everything's going to synergize together with our weapons and our subclass. Now let's break down the artifact and see how it's all going to come together. We've got Fever and Chill, so rapid precision hits with solar weapons will grant us Radiant, and rapid precision hits with stasis weapons will grant us Frost Armor. And that is the specific reason we are using a stasis heavy as well as a solar primary, because having the ability to go Radiant from that, which is why Facet of Dawn might not be necessary, plus the survivability we're going to get from Frost Armor as well as our Restoration plus our Overshield is going to be fantastic. Then in the same column, there's also Frost Renewal. So while we have Frost Armor active, taking critical damage releases a burst that freezes nearby combatants and will grant Frost Armor to us and our allies. Next up is an artifact perk that I have been waiting for them to bring back since they took it away, and that is going to be Threaded Blast. So when you destroy a Tangle, it's going to have a massive increase to its area of effect damage, and when you pair that with Arcane Needle to create those Tangles, the gameplay loop there is just beautiful. Then we've got Elemental Daze. When you stun a champion, it is going to cause an elemental explosion, but also at the same time apply debuffs to nearby targets. Meaning, we stun a champion with our Scout Rifle, it's going to apply Scorch. We stun a champion with our Stasis Weapon, it will apply Freeze to nearby targets. Now, let's talk about build-defining mods. We've got Shield Crush, melee regen, and a damage increase while we have Woven Mail, Frost Armor, or Avoid Overshield active. And that's not it. While we're amplified or radiant, our grenade will recharge faster and it will deal increased damage. Basically, this entire build, we're going to have either Frost Armor or Avoid Overshield up constantly, as well as being amplified or having radiant at the same time. So our melee and our grenade are going to recharge quicker and deal increased damage. Another reason you don't necessarily need an inmost class item because you're getting it elsewhere. And another perk that I'm extremely excited to try out with this build is going to be Radiant Shrapnel. Dealing sustained weapon damage while you're Radiant, or if you defeat a Scorched combatant with a weapon, it's going to cause that target to release solar projectiles that deal damage and Scorch on impact, meaning it's going to pair so fantastically with our Polaris Lance because we're constantly going to have Radiant, constantly scorching targets, meaning Radiant Shrapnel is going to be up constantly. So there you have it, Guardians, a prismatic melee-focused Warlock build that is going to allow you to heal, have great survivability, fantastic buffs, take advantage of so many good things that are coming in the artifact mod, plus using the glaive as just a pokey stick with all of it is going to be fantastic. And remember, you do not need an exotic class item. This is tuned for Edge of Fate. It's going to play beautifully with the new mods, and most importantly, it is going to be a ton of fun. Let me know in the comments what you're most hyped to try for in the Edge of Fate. If you found this video helpful, drop a like, subscribe for more builds, and because with this new stuff, it is just the beginning of a ton of new builds that we can create. And as always, Guardians, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.